Hello, ma'am.
Hello, hi.
Oh, good afternoon.
Very good afternoon to you as
Yes.
well.
Yes, on behalf of the organizers, since
Yeah.
they're busy in the BOS meeting today, my name is Laropui. I'm also one of the attendee here, participants here. So they asked me to welcome you. So
Yeah, yesterday actually they informed me that because of the BOS coinciding with the same time, some of the
yes,
participants will be.
yes.
Uh, it's nice.
Nice meeting you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have seen your biodata and you have done quite a lot.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you. I hope you remember me as well after this session too.
Sure, sure, definitely. Where are you actually
Actually,
posted?
I'm from Mizoram University itself, Department of Management,
Yeah,
assistant professor.
yeah.
So and but I have done my master's and bachelor from commerce.
Which university?
The same university, ma'am,
Okay.
Mizoram University, only here in from Mizoram. So we have like around 36. We are like around 36 participants,
A good
and
number.
they will be joining at 1:30. So
Okay.
at 1:30 we can like start the class. I will formally introduce you
Sure.
to the
I
class.
Yeah, actually I joined beforehand because at times
Mm,
when you start there are
yes,
some or other glitch, like for example I started today, it started the Zoom update process started
yes,
because
yes,
now, yeah, because nowadays here we are mostly offline, we
yes,
rarely do it's online.
exactly.
So I always take a precaution that better, on in
Right,
an
right.
online program, you join early so that the glitches can be managed in the beginning without
Right,
disturbing the process.
right, ma'am. So you can take like 3 more minutes, then we'll
Yeah.
start. Okay.
So we'll start at 1:30.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mm.
Oh, hello, sir. Good afternoon, Professor Sangeeta Sahu.
Money.
Yes.
Look, we're on the session.
Okay.
Okay. I think, ma'am, we can start, right?
Sure.
Yes, it's 1:30. So on behalf of the organizers of the Department of Commerce, Mizoram University, let me formally introduce you, Professor Sangeeta Sahu. I will just mention about her brief biodata. Professor Sahu is the current professor in the Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow. She had 20 years of experience in academics in the areas of human resource management and organization behavior. She also served as lecturer, reader, and associate professor for 16 years in Department of HRD Faculty of Management Studies in VBS Purvanchal University, Jaunpur, UP, in different academic and administrative capacities. And also she did her MPhil in Personal Management and Industrial Relations from Utkal University in 1998. She also got PhD in Personnel Management Industrial Relations from Utkal University. And she had done her FDP from IIM Ahmedabad. And she also is a member in various academic bodies. She was a vice chairperson of Indian Society of Training and Development, Lucknow chapter from 2018 to 2020. And now, I mean, she won several awards for best paper, including Emerald Literary Award 2019 for outstanding paper, which is Emerald Publications. And then she also won Kamla Award 2009 for best paper in Indian Journal of Training and Development. She also won the best paper in 2012, also won BBAY, that is Business Academic Year Award in Academic Year Award in 67th All India Commerce Conference in 2014. And also, again, she won Best Paper Award in 2013 in international conference. That is to name a few only. So, and also she is a very, seeing her biodata myself, I found that she's a very intelligent and then very academicians, very good academicians. So I'm very pleased and I'm very thankful to introduce you to the groups also for this refresher course. So ma'am, I think you can take your time. Your time starts.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's first of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to HRDC Center, Mizoram University, and Dr. Rajan Joshi, who actually contacted me for this lecture. And I thank Dr. Lalrupi for introducing me so well. At the same time, I want her to be there so that if there is any issue in this online delivery, please let me know.
Ma'am.
Because many times we are not able to, especially when I start teaching the thing, you are not. So as I assume, there are 26 participants have joined, and she mentioned that there are 36 participants probably. I assume many of them must be from different part of the country. So for this present lecture, actually, as you must be aware, I took the topic academic leadership. Though I often take, lectures or classes in some of the areas in research as well. But today I will be talking much more about academic leadership and the various avenues related to academic leadership. So let me just share my screen. And my sincere request is, please, if there is any issue, you have any trouble in, of watching or listening to me, please let me know so that I can make the amendments wherever required. Right? So talking about academic leadership, something that always I start with is leadership is a very, very old concept, isn't it? And it's a very natural concept which is observed in civilization since the beginning, always in all groups. Even if there are two people together, there has to be one people must be, in a leadership role. Normally we have observed. So leadership, something which has been, observed, very much felt, experienced, and has played great role in giving a direction to the civilization, to the society, to families, to every kind of an institution or group. So why are we so much nowadays alert or trying to generate awareness or sensitize people on the issues related to academic leadership? Now, why we have, I would like to put it like this, why we have reframed it, the leadership, into or as an academic leadership, right? So before I start this, I would just like to, we all are aware who is a leader. Who is a leader? Leader is basically a person, isn't it? A person who is able to influence someone, maybe and one person, maybe a group of person, but who is able to influence the other person towards achievement of a goal, right? And what is the leadership? Leadership is actually the process. Leadership, if you look at it, talks about the complete process where the individual needs to have skills, how the person transforms the other person, or how the person influences the other person. The whole process is referred to as leadership. So that is how we will see teachers. So in our context, in today's discussion on academic leadership, we will just focus how teacher as a leader influences or carries on the leadership process, so that the stakeholders for a teacher, the students, primarily the students and other bodies, can actually achieve the vision or mission of the institution, as well as personal goals and priorities, right? In this context, I would just like to, in the beginning, I'll just like to share a small story with you. The story talks about a small boy who dreams of becoming a famous archer, and he comes across stories and books and literature on a particular guy who was a very famous archer at one point of time. And this boy, he reads the literatures, hears the stories, and starts practicing archery by himself. And as he grows up, and through his practice, he feels he has become a good archer. But then he finds there is a little gap. Probably he's not so perfect. So in this search, as well as to get a confirmation from his role model, the particular guy whose stories and literature has influenced him to become an archer, he starts from his home in search of that particular guy. So when he reaches a particular village where he was supposed to be found, so he tries to ask people and find the address. He was not able to exactly locate that time, and the story doesn't talk about a time when we had Google Map or when we had so many gadgets by which we can trace people, right? So this guy, the small boy, actually goes to a particular village, and there he tries to search that as per the literature, this person who was a famous archer at one point of time, won a lot of awards and laurels, should be available here. So this guy, when he tries to ask many people in the village, the he comes across one person who promises him to take to that particular archer, famous archer. I'm not here giving any names. I give you the freedom to name the people. So, but he promises that he tells the guy, the small boy, to promise not to disclose this information to the outside world. The small boy was very happy, or rather than I should say, was very delighted that then finally the moment has come when he is going to meet the person whom he literally prayed and was so much influenced by his literature and achievements that he himself has developed or skilled himself in the particular area. So this guy then gets the opportunity to meet the famous archer. The famous when this person takes the boy to the famous archer, the boy sees that he's a blacksmith who is actually working on some iron work, modeling some iron. And then this boy asks this person that, why are you doing this kind of a work when you are such a famous archer? He said, see, I became a famous archer because I love to shape iron. So I love to shape my own arrows even. So that's what makes me, that's what actually drove me towards the, to become an archer. And then the boy actually, this guy, the teacher, or you can say the moral model of the boy, he then tells us, the boy, that why have you come so far in search of me? Because nowadays I do not practice archery at all. So this small boy says, no, I wanted to show you that just by reading about you, knowing you, I have learned myself and developed myself, and I can compete, So then we see that the boy had a desire to influence the teacher with his or her ability to develop the way he has developed this skill of archery. So this boy then takes a position, the typical way in which we take a position to use bow and arrow. He sits in the particular position, and then he asks his role model that, you tell me where to hit. I will hit, and I will, I'm so good at it. So he was very proud at that moment. And this role model tells him that, in front of his house, at a distance of 40 feet, there was a berry tree with a lot of berries. Then he says, okay, now you hit and get me some berries. So this little boy who sets his direction in the direction of the berry tree, and then pulls his bow. So as soon as he pulls his bow, the lot of berries from a big bunch of berries from the berry tree falls down. And you can just imagine the smile on the face of the little boy, that see how good I am and how wonderfully I have done it. So now the boy tells the archer, the boy tells his role model, the archer, that now it's your turn. Okay, you show me how well you can do this, because I feel that I have reached that position where I can be known in the world as an archer who is equal to you, who is a famous person. So now this his role model says, okay, you give me your bow, because I have already left this thing, and I don't no more use or have any bow or arrows. So this boy gives his bow and arrow to him, and this archer takes him, tells him that, you come with me. Let's take a walk, and at the right place, I will show you how I can use my bows and my bow and arrows, right? So this both of them start a walk. They walked for a long time, and then they reached a place where a river was flowing, and on the both sides of the river there were mountains, okay, hill. You can say that, you can just imagine, you can imagine that there are hills, and especially all those in Mizoram and Northeast is full of rivers and valleys, though I have never been to Northeast, but I feel you can easily visualize. So this role model, or the archer, the main archer, takes the boy to top of one of the hill, not actually top of the hill, but somewhat to the medium place where there was a bridge. There was a hanging bridge on the river between the mountains, connecting the two hill or mountains. So when they reach that point, the archer just walks on the bridge, and when he comes to the center of the bridge, he sits there, and then he takes a position to pull the arrow, and then he pulls the arrow, and at about 20 feet distance, there was a tree bearing some kind of a fruit. So this guy pulls the arrow, and the archer pulls the arrow, and the fruit falls down. At this point, the archer tells the boy, see, the size of the fruit. Now, interestingly, what I want you to see, that interestingly, the size of the fruit was larger than the size of the berries that the boy actually aimed at. And the distance is also less. If you recall my previous sentences, the boy hit the berries from a distance of 40 feet, whereas in this case, the archer hits the fruit, which was twice or more than that in size of a berry, from just a distance of 20 feet. And then he comes back near on the mountain near the boy, and he says, then now it's your turn, right? He tells the boy, now it's your turn, and you have to hit, and I'm pretty sure that you can do it because the distance is halved and the size of the fruit has also increased. So it is easy for you to do it. And now the boy was perplexed because he didn't had the guts to, walk on the, what should I say, the hanging bridge, and forget about taking a position in the bridge and hitting the arrow. So this was a small story I wanted to share with you. And this is what the story talks about. The story, actually, small story, talks about many things. But apart from that, why I included it in this class of academic leadership, the reason is, the student here gets an opportunity to meet the teacher and learn under the supervision of the teacher, which actually gives him insight that in spite of his ability to understand, use, and implement or practice the art of archery, in the absence of what we call a guru or a teacher, he is doing so well. But ultimately, when he comes in connect with the teacher, it changes the way he has been thinking and he has been practicing archery. So here, what changed? What did the leader do? Here, if you see in this context, the leader, who is the leader? The archer is the leader, isn't it? And the boy is basically a follower who has been following him since long, but this is the moment when he meets the teacher, the archer, and then he realizes that there are a lot of many things to be learned. And so this is, guys, why did I say this story? Was it little bit tells us about the kind of profession we are in, teaching people, where we influences the lives of children, isn't it? Students, we every day teach, meet, and various activities we carry out with them. So we have ample of opportunity to mold their lives, to influence their lives. And I'm very, very much sure, since it's a refresher course, so all of you must be having some years of experience in the teaching profession. There may be students who are admiring you. There are students who follow you. There are students who are very much, whose lives are influenced by your abilities, your capabilities, your personalities, your experiences, your way of teaching, right? So this is the reason why I just pick up the story. So if we little bit move further, so we can see how being in connect with the teacher can actually open the eyes or make the student feel the difference and the gaps, and encourage the person to move forward. And this is what a teacher's role needs to be, influencing the life of students. So now now when I'm talking about academic leadership, and we all here connected now are teachers in our life, so we need to see that leader within ourselves. Now if you start looking at the exploring leader within ourselves, first of all, I would say that you can just think of a leader you admire around you. I could have, I'm not taking the exact answers right now, but you can just think of the various leaders. There are so many kind of, political leaders, religious leaders, and so many other kind of leaders you will find around you. So just think of a leader you admire. Think of a leader who influenced your life. And there are ample chances that the person who influenced your life as a leader is different from the person whom you admire as a leader, right? And then you just think of a teacher. So many teachers must have taught you in your life. Just think of a teacher who actually influenced your life. I'm very sure you can relate these three things, right? First of all, a leader. Second is a leader who influenced your life, and then a teacher. So can you connect now with the teacher as a leader who actually influenced your life, right? So this is how we can actually explore how are we, how teachers work as leaders, and how students get connected to teachers in terms of, getting influenced by it. And then you as a teacher exhibit behavior of leader, like how you think in your context, you exhibit yourself as a leader. So we will in this discussion, I would like to suggest you or go through the steps how we can build our leadership skills better, and how we need to work on if we want to become an academic leader in our area, wherever we are working in our institutions. So I would like to dedicate this first to our former President of India, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji. And this is one of his very popular quote, which says that the true teachers are those who help us think for ourselves. Now here, if you can connect with the story I just narrated in front of you, the story very clearly said that in the story we saw that the archer took the boy all to that particular place, that valley, just to make the child feel and understand where he lacks, isn't it? What he lacks, where he lacks, and how he can improve, right? Isn't it? So this is what this quote very much connects with the particular kind of story that I told before you. Then there is another, these are the greatest leaders. If we look back in our country's history, leaders don't force people to follow, they invite them on a journey. Now, if you connect again with the story, the role of an archer, his achievements, his literature, just imagine the child never met him even, but then also he was influenced by the achievement. So a leader needs to play such a role which can create that position in the lives of the followers, so that the followers follow them and reach their objectives or goals in their life. Now coming to Chanakya, who is, the greatest economist and greatest teacher also. So his quotations, we know, we've seen how beautifully his management thoughts. Still, if any of you, since I think most of you are, all of you are in fact in commerce and management field, and in commerce also management is obviously a very important part in their subject also. So his economic views are still very much followed and studied by people. So another, this is another Swami Vivekanand. His lessons are again, his life is again a very good example of how a leader should be. These are some of the people who have, who have actually worked in different areas and established leadership in different time periods. This is also something I want you to see. If you look at Radhakrishnan, if you look at Vivekanand, if you look at here Savitribai Phule, you will see that these people have been leaders in different time zones. Now, why I took up this discussion is because they become leader in different time zones. So what is the beauty of leadership, even if people are in different time zones? This is what something we need to look at and address as well. So if you look at the leadership styles that is primarily talked about, I'm very sure from Commerce and Management, whatever courses you did in your post-graduation level, and many of you must be teaching leadership as well. So you must have come across, there are so many types or, styles of leadership, I would say. The styles of leadership may be common leadership styles, may be, a leader as a coach, as a transformational leader, transactional leader, autocratic leader, somebody is democratic leader, somebody is, more bureaucratic in his or her delivery of leadership. So there are n number of, this captures some small number of leadership styles, but then there may be n number of leadership styles that you must have come across during your student experience. So when we look at these leadership styles, where do we place academic leadership and how do we differentiate between these leadership styles and academic leadership styles? So that is going to be the focus of my discussion further. So if you look at the basic framework of leadership, okay, if you look at the basic framework of leadership or structure of leadership, you will see that it consists of, the personal characteristics. Just recall the people we discussed, either Radhakrishnan, Chanakya, Vivekanand, Savitribai Phule, or any other leaders you can consider. All these people have completely different personality characteristics, isn't it? If you read their books, if you research more about them, you will see that they were different kind of people, right? And secondly, so their personal attributes or personal characteristics were also very different. Second is the behaviors they exhibited. Okay, again, if you go into deeper part of it, you will see they were very different kind of people. Some people were very compassionate, some people were very empathetic, some people were very strong, robust leaders who have given direction. If you take the case of Savitribai Phule, she actually fought for women. So that was women rights. So that was a completely different picture of a leader for a different section. So, and the third thing comes is the context, that is the situation. So if again you trail back to the people whom I discussed just now, or the examples you may think of, you look as leader, you will see that they all vary in terms of personality, characteristics, attributes that they have. Okay, they vary in terms of behavior they have shown during their leaderships, during their leadership period, or the experiences, their lifetime experiences from which we capture that they are leaders. they vary. The kind of behavior they portrayed at that point of time when they were in the leader's position, on the shoes of the leaders, you will see the behavior they exhibited is very different. And finally, if you look at the context also, the situation, talking about the work of our former President Radhakrishnan. Then if you look at Abdul Kalam, again, you will see the time period was totally different. You go back to Chanakya, the time period were different kind of, when I say time zone was different, you see it talks about the context. It talks about what were the important things happening at that point of time. Because remember one thing which we need to bear in our mind, as the leaders are also dependent on the situation. If the situation varies, the kind of behavior shown by another person portrays him or her in the position of leader. Coming into the position of leader has a crucial influence of the context or the situation also, right? So therefore, this further pulls us towards why are, I remember when she so beautifully read my CV. So if I did my post-graduation long back in 1996. So when I did then, at that point of time, we never discussed about some leadership called academic leadership. Okay. So now in 2022, why are we so much interested in trying to explore about academic leadership? Why we did not take the topic at that point of time? One of the very, very important reason is because the shape of higher education, the structure of higher education, the aspirations of higher education, is changing worldwide, and especially with reference to India. We have recently we in 2020, the NEP, National Education Policy, was adopted by higher education, by education invariably. But since we are teaching in higher education, let us focus on now what I'm very sure from whatever institutions you have joined, lot of workshops and activities you must have attended by now, which to sensitize you, to aware you on NEP, and I'm very sure your institutions must have redesigned, revamped their curriculum so that you can follow or the suggestions made by NEP 2020 in your curriculum, in your courses, in your overall research and learning experiences that you provide to your students. So what did NEP actually change? If you look at, I won't go much detail into NEP, but I'm just trying to develop a connect that since there has been a change in the policy, it changes the overall context, isn't it? Changes the expectations from teachers. If you see NEP 2020, I'm very sure many of you must have attended the lectures. Many of you must have read it as well. So if you look at NEP 2020, it very much focuses on interdisciplinary, multiple disciplinary, and holistic nature of education. Now, if you think of the teachers who taught you and the teacher you are now, you can see that if the context has changed, the need of the context has changed, it definitely needs you to change to address the issues in present context, right? And when I say it's a present context, you need to be more skilled in terms of your capabilities, the abilities that we need to deliver. So because NEP 2020 has invariably changed our curriculum, the pedagogy we teach, and I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but then something which has radically changed the conditions now has been COVID-19 itself, right? If you look at the nature of work report, which came out in 2019, the World Report on Changing Nature of Work, it very clearly states that, you know, the nature of work is changing worldwide. And since the nature of work is changing, so our competencies, our abilities to carry out those kind of work need to change. We need to modify, revamp ourselves, our capabilities and competencies so that we can align and deliver the aspirations of the stakeholders, right? So having said this, I'm sure you must be able to very well connect it with the changes that took place in COVID-19. So whatever technology adaptation, you know, you must have come across something called Industry 4.0. So when we talk about Industry 4.0, actually in light of Industry 4.0, if you see the nature, this nature of work has changed actually in light of Industry 4.0. And when this there has been change in the industry, definitely this calls for change in the education system also, because who is then input to the industry? One of the important input to industry is the people itself, who are coming from the society, from schools, colleges, and the educational institutions. So if the industry has a different kind of a requirement, definitely it wants the providers to change, you know. So that was the main reason why higher education has to change the way it caters to development of the students, so that the industry gets a right kind of competent people that it requires. And this whole story revolves around the efficiency, effectiveness of teachers and the role they play in various positions, right? And therefore we need to, and therefore this talk on academic leadership became more vibrant, more, you know, issue to be addressed. So I'm not going to NEP 2020. This is just, you know, how they, you can see how the roles have changed. Now, when we talk about role, when we just look at the word called role, excuse me. So when we talk about this word called role, what does role mean to you, right? So when we mean to you in terms of leadership, so role, whenever there is a role, there is a particular person who is performing the role. Okay, and when a particular person is performing the role, there is a group of stakeholders who are getting influenced by it. Okay, take the role of anybody. If you take a doctor in the operation theater, doctor becomes the lead, is a leader, and then he's performing his activity with where the person who is getting influenced is the patient. And then in this way, there can be many stakeholders. So in our context, if we see the role of a teacher, and who is the teacher influencing? Are they only the students? No, it's not only the students. It's the students, it's the peer group, it is the complete people in the education, in the domain, and the society as well. So if if you're like our institution is going for NAC and NIRF, so when we go through these processes, and many of you must be part of such bodies, you must have seen when we fill all the details of our institution, there is something called this outreach activities, isn't it? The outreach activities, what is the contribution of your institution? These questions are actually pointing towards the outcome of the institution, the outcome of the academic institution in terms of influencing the lives of the stakeholders. And when I am saying stakeholders, it's not only the students, but the society at large, isn't it? If you, and especially, we all being from academic institutions, we all must have experienced how much any academic institution influences the overall growth, development, change process. If you wherever you are placed, in whichever institutions you are placed, if you ask people from that area that when there was when the institution was not present in that particular place, and after coming of the institution in last few years, how things have changed in the area, you will see that you can yourself feel the contribution of the institution in developing the people of that particular place. And therefore, when we look at stakeholders, we need to see, all those people whose lives are getting influenced because of the teacher, which primarily influences the community and the society through the students, through their activities, so that, it contributes to a positive development, positive culture, brings about change in the social environment. So this is how the role can influence others, their lives. Now, when I talk about stakeholders, if you look at stakeholders, there has been a lot of change in the diversity. In the stakeholders are more diverse now. If you look at the students, the generation of students, when we teach nowadays in class, our students belong to Generation Z. When we look at the students in Generation Z, there are multiple research papers. Many of them, though I could not indulge in direct interaction with each of the participants, but I'm very sure many of you must be in the area studying the habits, characteristics, or influences or attributes of Generation Z. Either you are in marketing or HR or in finance, behavioral finance, you may be looking at, how the characteristics, attributes of Generation Z is so very different from previous generations. You can talk about Generation X or Y, right? And since the generations are very diversified, in terms of age groups, in terms of gender distribution, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of the way they think, their attitude, the way of taking up things, their beliefs and perceptions, has changed a lot. And since these things have changed, the value system has also changed, which, puts pressure on the leader to change his or her style of leadership as well, so that you can carry on with your ability to influence the students and the stakeholders in present context. So therefore, this actually what you are looking at right now is actually the diversity you find in case of our primary stakeholders, right? So when you are talking about, so now we are very clear, okay, now we are very clear with who is the leader and who are the followers in our system. And now let us move to the relationship called leadership. So when I talk about leadership in the beginning, I said it's about the process, isn't it? And when I'm talking about the process, we need to see how leadership works. When you look at leadership, how it works based on relationship. When we are talking about academic relationship, right? In academic relationship, we are more focused on the relationship building between the teacher and the students, or the society, the community, the peer group with whom the teacher is interacting and trying to play a lead role through his or her formal or informal status that the particular person holds. So when you are trying to build into relationship with your stakeholders, so in academic leadership, we very much need the role of a leader to be in form of a cultivator or a facilitator, a person who facilitates. If you look at the traditional way of teaching, you go back to I'm not sure what age group you all belong to, but if I go back to in 1990s when I was a student, or I look back at 80s when I was a student in school, I was a school student, I see the teaching was traditionally, the role of a teacher was more about just teaching. Teaching means just teaching, that is delivery of knowledge and transmission of knowledge from the teacher to the student. That's the whole conceptual part, if you see, of how students interacted in the traditional education system. But now what is happening? Now it's deviated into a lot of activities, right? So it is not just the teaching, but lot of other activities has come into the periphery of a teacher. I'm very sure if you look back to the kind of roles you are playing in your institution, you will see that you are playing multiple roles, isn't it? You are on multiple shoes, changing the roles every day, regularly. So when you are changing so many roles, how you influence many kind of stakeholders, or I should say many types of stakeholder groups in your periphery or in your premises. And when you are influencing them, it becomes very vital for you to understand how to build that particular leadership, or what kind of things goes to that relationship building as a leader, as a teacher, as well as a leader, especially in the context of academic leadership, right? So when you look at it, you see the roles we play. So you can see here on the slide that there are various roles written down, isn't it? Though we all do not perform all the roles, but I am very sure you may be performing at least 3 or 4, minimum 3 or 4 kind of roles that are written here. So what do we deduce from this? That every teacher nowadays is actually carrying out multiple roles in their position. Right? When you do this multiple position roles are defined. What roles are defined by activities? What activities you are doing or what role you are into, that defines your activities. Like for example, right now I am in a role of a teacher trying to deliver. So this defines my activity very clearly. I need to deliver a particular topic in using various modes of means of ways to reach to you in terms of in the area of academic leadership. But the moment I take up my administrative role, so the tasks or the activities that I will be doing will be very different, as well as the group of stakeholder will vary, isn't it? Now, if you look at activities normally done by these people in these roles are, very clearly written down here. Problem solving, decision making, it can be creativity, innovation. There are a number of activities that will vary, and I'm very sure if you can parallelly you can just write down what kind of activities you carry on. You can see there is a lot of variation, isn't it? There is a lot of variation. At one point of time you are talking about innovation, creativity. The very point of time you are talking about teaching, you're maintaining a dialogue with your stakeholders, you are trying to mediate as a conflict person to resolve the conflicts. So there are multiple kind of roles, and as I mentioned to you sometime before, that we all carry out at least minimum 3 to 4 kind of roles in our everyday work life, in our universities, educational institutions, wherever we are, right? So this makes us ponder that when we are looking ourselves, if I am looking at myself as a teacher and as a leader, I need to use a more constructivist approach in defining my roles. What I want to actually convey here is whenever I am talking about, see, whenever I am talking about something called role, whenever I say something about role, I need to focus on activities that are being done by a person in that role. When I look at the activities, I need to understand that activities require different type of competencies to perform the role, isn't it? So ultimately, whenever you are talking of role, you are actually, your role defines the kind of activities you need to do, and the activities actually define the competencies you need to have. And when I say competencies, it talks about the skills. The skills are the abilities the leader needs to possess. If you remember, you go back to that framework of leadership. So it was what? It was personal characteristics. It was your abilities to do, and it talked about the situation as well of a leader, right? So our situation today, we all are into implementation of NEP 2020, so that a lot of higher education goals and objectives framed by the policymakers can be reached at least by 2035 or at least 2030, right? So we all are moving together in that direction, and that is probably one of the very primary reasons why HRDC centers have introduced academic leadership as a way to make people understand why this leadership thing in academics is being given so much of weightage. So let me grab this a little bit. Right. So if now if you look at the constructivist approach, it basically tells you rather that you need to make and develop an understanding by yourself about what role you are playing. Because again, I said the roles, at least 3-4 roles we all are playing, and we are playing it differently in different courts and in different, with different stakeholders. So you need to define that very clearly about yourself, that what are the roles you are playing and how you can, do good in those roles. What should be the attributes that you need to bring into light. Another thing, please do not forget, whenever we use this constructivist approach, all those among you who have done, all those who have actually have an exposure on qualitative research must be aware of constructivist approach. So here we try to define the context or the situation we are into. And this situation defining the situation actually tells us clearly about the roles that we play and what competencies do we need to develop in ourselves so that we justify the roles that we are playing, right? Another important criteria of being facilitator or cultivator kind of a relationship with our stakeholders, the onus actually lies on the interaction and communication we make in relationship building. Now, this is something, again, very, very important, that we in academic leadership need to trust on ensuring fair treatment, right? See, look, from where we started, but where we have come down into, that is ensuring fair treatment. So whenever we are communicating to our the stakeholders, we need to ensure that there is fair treatment. So any one of you who has studied justice as a variable must be aware of, the various kinds of, normally in research or in the domain of justice, we look at procedural and distributive justice. Okay, these are, if you look back and you can see various studies on the justice area of justice, you can see that justice normally can be procedural or distributive justice. So when I am saying here that we need to have something called, it's not working, just a moment. So when we are saying we need to ensure fair treatment, we need to deliver justice or fairness in terms of justice, which can be in terms of procedural justice, or it can be in terms of distributive justice. I'm not very sure how many of you are very, aware about procedural and distributive justice, but here I would just like to mention, since we have come up with this, procedural justice is something laying down something, the procedures, is something like, for example, we lay down policies. Why do we lay down policies? The policies are a method of ensuring procedural justice, that if this is the condition, this stand will be taken following these policies, right? But distributive justice comes to the owners of the particular person who is actually in the position to implement it, okay, to implement the policies. So if you look at here, the procedural justice are the policies. Like, for example, NEP 2020 is trying to deliver procedural justice, is a documentation which tries to establish fairness among the people in our country towards education, right? And when we talk about distributive justice, this is how we implement it at our own level. When I am sitting on some administrative position, or I am in the classroom, how actually I am implementing the suggestions that have been made in the NEP policy. So that will be part of distributive justice. Now, when we are talking about fairness, which is there in any relationship, when the relationship building is always on trust and fairness. So when we are talking about this fairness in relational intelligence, what are the two main components they go into? How can you establish that fairness with your stakeholders? To develop that fairness with your stakeholders, you need to have emotional intelligence as well as ethical intelligence. These are the two kinds. Of many of you must be, since all of you are from commerce and management, I'm sure you must have come across emotional intelligence as well as ethical intelligence, but I'll briefly touch them to develop to give it an overall touch of understanding of how these all things are important to be an academic leader, right? So when I talk about emotional intelligence, which popularly was very much made popular by Goldman, I would say in 1995, when he came out with these 5 components of emotional intelligence, it starts with, so when you look at emotional intelligence, what does it mean? Emotionally, I need to be intelligent. That means I need to control and behave in an appropriate way with my stakeholders. Okay, and how do I do this? I do this by these were the basic steps suggested by Goldman and very much practiced in emotional intelligence development training classes and by organizations institutions to build this sense of emotional intelligence. What are they? One is self-awareness, right? Self-awareness talks about how much do I need myself. Since you all, again, I want to read this. Self-awareness, skill training programs are conducted so that students understand their self-awareness. Similarly, we leaders or teachers need to also understand our awareness, regulate our behavior, motivate ourselves to carry on the roles that we are playing, have empathy with the stakeholders. So here, we need to have that empathetic attitude towards our stakeholders. Again, I repeat, the stakeholders may be our students, it may be the extended community or the society whom you are serving in different roles. And then the social skills that you need to deliver that empathy or deliver whatever you are doing with the stakeholders. right? This is the basics of emotional intelligence. So when we look ourselves as an academic leader, I need to work on emotional intelligence part of mine so that my relationship with my stakeholders are appropriate, right? So that the fairness can be delivered. Are you getting the point? The fairness that I talked about in the beginning about relational intelligence, that fairness can be delivered. One, if I am more ethically intelligent. Two is when I am more, one is when I am emotionally intelligent. And second is when I am more ethically intelligent. So what does ethical intelligence talks about? Ethical intelligence talks about, I see some question, something in the chat box. Yeah, please, anyone who wants to ask anything, please, you can share your observations and questions, and you can think of anything you want to ask. In the chat box, you can mention it so that I can go back and check, right? So let us come to the second one, that is the ethical part of it. Now, being ethical is again something very, very important to establish a relationship or to be fair to a relationship, right? So how do I establish? So these 5 questions which you can see, which many times we do also, isn't it? Many times when we are in a dilemma, in such a dilemma situation, we try to explore this. Will this cause, whatever decision I'm taking or however I'm making decision to implement what I want to as a leader or a teacher, I need to ask these questions. Will this cause harm? Like, will it be harmful for or have some negative effect on someone? Will this make things better? Or will this improve the situation in where I am? Will this respect others? Whatever as a teacher, whatever as an administrator in the academic institution decision I'm taking, is this going to respect everybody's, take care of their rights, their self-respect, or am I hampering someone by the process? Is it fair? Is it right? Again, guys, I'll tell you, this right or wrong is something which is again at times contextual. It is very much dependent on the factors in the environment that are influencing it. So that has to be, again, the call has to be taken accordingly. Is this about caring about others? Now, this caring is important because whenever we are talking about emotional intelligence, we talk about empathy, isn't it? And when we talk about empathy itself, derives from being more caring towards others. So these things talks about ethical intelligence, so we need to be more emotional intelligence as well as ethically intelligence to deliver what we call leadership in terms of developing a relationship at our workplaces with the stakeholders. So now let us see how I as a teacher will do it. As a teacher, how do I implement it? So as a teacher, if you see the slide on your system, it talks about various roles. Remember, we already talked about various roles where a teacher can be delivering lectures, or teaching the students, can be an administrator, can be work as a consultant, can be in counseling sessions. Here in our university, under the leadership of our dynamic vice chancellor, we have, during the COVID period, we came up with many kind of, we tried to implement many type of counseling initiatives of extension activities, initiatives of connecting with our students. Now, even if you look at what we are doing right now, is actually, we are connecting to each other from a distance mode. right? So these things have been redefined. The context has been very much redefined. And if you look at the roles that we play for in the life of our stakeholders, are we can put them into these easy words. One is the role as a steward. Steward, what does a steward do? So we can actually facilitate our stakeholders. Now here I would again like to make a mention that in the beginning, a few minutes back also I mentioned that there has been a shift from the traditional kind of teaching to today's teaching. Today's teacher has to be more facilitator, more as a facilitator to the student in terms of helping the student get the resources, access to resources. The role has changed in terms of more of like a counselor than a typical teacher, isn't it? In terms of advising the students, in terms of showing the student avenues for their development, in terms of a citizen. When I say role of a citizen in itself in our mind gets the view of, a role model. So a teacher needs to be a role model for the students as a servant. When I say this word servant, what comes to your mind? Servant, when we use the word servant, it's actually a person who is serving, isn't it? Servant is a person who serves. So when you are serving someone as a teacher, we need to serve the student with the facilities that can help the person or the child or the our students into better human beings, to be more employable. Their employability abilities should increase, and this all we do by facilitating them in their holistic development. Therefore, when this with NEP 2020, actually nothing but our roles got redefined, right? If we look at teachers in 70s and 80s, and if we look at the teachers in present context, I'm very sure you all must be experiencing that we have multiple things to do, and to do these things well, we need to have multiple roles, right? X is visionary. That means you ought to have some vision. Now I see when you are management students, they come to you for say dissertation. You may be a mentor to them in terms of research, in their dissertation, in maybe their business plan preparation. So being visionary becomes very, very important, so that you can more actively involve the student in the process, and the contribution from both the sides actually increases. Architect, the person who designs, isn't it? Designing. So what a teacher is actually doing, the teacher needs to design the student in terms of the work. If you look at the reframing of syllabus, I don't know, you all must be belonging to different states, and I am very sure in different states the implementation of NEP 2020 must be in different phases, in different ways. So I would like to share, in the state of Uttar Pradesh here in UP, we have actually, the government, the higher education department took a very strong role in building the implementation part of NEP 2020. So since last year, in our state, where all the state universities and its colleges are following, in undergraduate, are following a common syllabus, which has been framed under the leadership of the higher education department of our state, and which is being followed by all the colleges, so that, now I'll mention the objectives, so that the multiple exits that has been suggested by NEP 2020 can actually be implemented. The credit transfers can be implemented, right? So what is this, all these things about? It's about architect. It's about structuring the education system, the pedagogy, the curriculum in such a way so that deals well with the outcome that you are expecting from NEP 2020. Then you have a change agent. Now, as I just mentioned, in our university, in our state, we have already implemented NEP 2020, and this implementation of NEP 2020 is nothing but is a kind of creating a transformational change, isn't it? If you look at, the kind of subjects that a student can take, the options available for a student to select subjects from, very different structured way, syllabus. Secondly, the coming up of more vocational courses, value-added courses, etc., has definitely redefined the way education was earlier looked into, or undergraduate, postgraduate courses were looked into. And now, since these things have changed, so we as a teacher, or I as a teacher, need to work towards the implementation of these changes at my workplace, in my classroom, among the stakeholders, right? And when I am trying to do this, then definitely I am playing the role of a change agent. Again, if I look at all these roles individually, let me just finish. One is coach. Again, coach is, I often in my classes, many times being an HR faculty, I ask students to always differentiate between mentor and coach. Are they different? Yes, very much, isn't it? Because coach actually looks at your holistic development and takes care of each part of it, whereas mentoring is more objective in terms of problem solving issue, whereas coach is more of your overall growth and development. And then we have the storyteller. Now, what is storytelling? Storytelling is something trying to correlate with examples and illustrations and presentation in a way so that, things get integrated. The various different things get integrated and presented before for better learning of the student. So why am I discussing these roles? Because if you look at deeper into this, in your free time, please try to ponder over it. If you see, we as a teacher are actually performing so many different kind of roles. And in each kind of this role, to perform well, you need to show different kind of behaviors. Suppose you want to be a role model for your students, you need to show more of a citizenship behavior. But whereas if you want to implement some changes that is taking place in your political and legal environment, you need to play more of the role of a change agent. Now, if you see the role of a citizen, again, let me, if you are here looking at the role of a citizen and role of a change agent, you will see the competencies required to be a role model and a good citizen for your stakeholders, and the competencies required to be a change agent are very, very different, right? They are very, very different. But invariably, each one of us is carrying out all these roles in different degrees. Now, this is something very different. Some may be doing some kind of a role, or some may be doing some kind of role. But then there is difference, and this needs to be done under academic leadership. So therefore, when we look at academic leadership, if you recollect the beginning framework that I discussed with you, which shows that the leadership is defined by what? It is defined by the personal attributes of the individual. It is defined by the skills and abilities the individual has. And third is, it is defined by the context the individual is in. So for all of us friends here, for all of us, the context is a common to some extent, that is implementation of NEP 2020 in our institutions. We may be in a small or big institution, in a college, or in, university system. We need to implement those things, and in the process, we need to carry out various kind of roles or activities. Now, to perform those roles and activities, we need different kind of competencies, which as I mentioned, some time before this, we need to use something called constructivist approach. So as per constructivist approach, it's designing it for yourself. Most popular management term, I'll use it, is more to be more customized. So I need to actually work on what roles I'm performing and what kind of competencies do I require for the role. And accordingly, I need to train and develop myself in those areas, which will be helpful in carrying out my activities. So here we overall see that one is your personal and interpersonal capacities, right? That again, there is nothing but it talks about your abilities. Okay, what all things you should do. So if you see here, it talks about your ability to influence. People influence in many ways. Somebody influences through chair, somebody influences through knowledge, somebody influences through, rules and regulations. So there are various ways. Your ability to communicate, disseminate your knowledge, conflict resolution, self-regulation, empathizing, commitment, decisiveness. These are few of, I'm not saying this is a complete list, these are few of the personal and interpersonal capacities that is required to be possessed by a teacher so that you can, perform academic leadership properly. The next one, if you see here, is the academic capacity, which talks about your learning in the particular area, your experiences in the particular domain. It may be through community services, research acquisition, institutional reputation, enhancement, whatever these activities you are involved into, it establishes your academic capability. Then you have in leadership capacity, leadership competencies, skills. Is here you will connect to all the skills that help you to become good leaders, right? Here, if you look at culture related skills, again, you see the more, the complete thrust of NEP 2020 is to develop more, is focused on more and more collaborative work. So when you try to collaborate with people from different part of the world, from different institutions, definitely there is an intermixing of cultures, right? Whenever there is an intermixing of cultures, it needs to be handled very delicately so that the skills transfer is smooth. Okay, skill transfer is smooth and you are able to implement those skills. Finally, we have consensus, the types of leadership styles. As in my beginning, I said there are n number of, because leadership is an area which is just like an ocean, there are n number of books, there are n number of theories, n number of styles that people have come up, but the beauty remains that in every context, a particular kind of leadership can be more successful. So that is the reason why people in the domain of education are trying to define the leadership style of academicians, which was a very, very less explored area prior to 2018 or 19. And one of the contributors, it's not only NEP 2020, NEP 2020 has been within the country, but worldwide, another important contributor has been the changing nature of work. Since the nature of work is changing, therefore, the changing nature of work actually requires or expects the students to possess different kind of competencies. Right? Therefore, there is a need to have academic leadership so that the kind of holistic development, multidisciplinary knowledge you want to cater to the students can be availed. So with this, I would like to just highlight on these are on your screen. You can see these are some kind of cells or activities that NEP 2020 has focused, which has which has increased the need of academic leadership in trying to deliver all these things in multiple roles. So with this, I would like to conclude the session. It's already 2:50 and I need to talk about, any questions anybody has, we can discuss because.
Yes, thank you, madam, so much for your refreshing session. I think from your lessons that we can now see how we should, as a teacher, be a leader in some activities. I mean, in academic life too. So I think how the role that we should play, you have highlighted to us. So I think that is very good for us, and you are indeed refreshing us on this refresher course. Thank you so much. So if there are no, I think there are no questions on the.
And Dr. Lalrupi.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Madam, this is Professor Jyoti Kumar.
Hello.
I was listening to you and quite very relevant, it is very relevant for the young faculty because they are expected to play multiple roles in their institutions to make their institution great, wonderful. But nowadays, there is some dissent voice among the teachers, and they are feeling that there is a lot of paperwork happening in the institutions from top to bottom. And you mentioned the various roles, and one of the roles is being a teacher, being a good teacher, right? And they are saying that are we compromising with our role as a teacher while giving more importance to other roles? I'm just asking on behalf of our younger faculty.
Yeah, it's not about just asking. This is what we are experiencing also, isn't it? Because in our university, we were the first university to implement NEP 2020 in India, and we feel very proud about it. But at the same time, I look at the teachers or ourselves, actually we had to grill ourselves, and this is very true. When we are expanding the kind of work we are doing, then definitely the focus will scatter, which you said, the more of paperwork is being done. And one of the important reasons for this is because, as I mentioned, our role has changed from the traditional teaching to more of a facilitator. The shift, if you can see, the shift has been just from teaching. Because if I recollect my teachers, the task that was for the teacher was you read a lot, you develop a good understanding, you do research, and you deliver it to the students so that their overall way of thinking, and that still we believe very much. But now what has happened that since the lot of other activities, so like for example the use of technology, right? The typical kind of teaching that we used to give at that point of time has changed its shape, its presentation, its structure. If we see through online teaching, suppose I'm making a PPT, or suppose I'm going for I would like to take a mention of digital universities which are coming up. There's a lot of talk about digital universities, and there is a lot of talk about what you call, digital teachers. When you talk about digital university, it talks about digital teachers. So it is completely changing the role of a teacher. And now next thing comes, are we compromising something, or is it relevant to the situation? Isn't it?
Is it changing our role, or is it reducing our role? Again, depends upon the teacher. Fine. Again, depends upon the teacher.
It is actually changing the role. I will not say it is reducing the role. No, it's not reducing the role. It is changing the role. changing the role. Now our role is more or not only to teach, but then I have to prepare the PPT, I have to prepare a video. If tomorrow I become a digital teacher in my digital university, I need to probably give more time in developing a software or a process by which, online teaching or the mode of delivery in a digital university is going to. So it has actually changed the nature of work. The nature of work. If I just stick today, if I just stick to be a traditional teacher, then my contribution to my system does not align. That's the because the NEP 2020, the way things have been put in it, has to change. The teacher has to adapt various other roles. So definitely when you are adopting various other roles, you are sharing, and at the same time you need to develop a lot of different skills and attributes so that you can deliver the role. So the role has changed, which has changed the nature of work that a teacher was doing earlier. And these two things together is putting pressure, I would say it's putting pressure on teachers to update, revamp their skills. And that is the reason why the young teachers, especially as you mentioned, the young teachers need to, develop themselves in more of the skills and attributes to align with what kind of education we are moving into. And it is very important because, in this COVID period, actually, we came across, we were made to, I would use the word, we were made to go through the process of online teaching. Otherwise, I am doubtful in India, anywhere, at least in state universities, we ever thought of online teaching. But if you look at the worldwide view, all the premier academic institutions in management or other fields, in the world map, you will see they were with hybrid kind of a teaching. They were on with it. So it was not a new for them when COVID struck us. So now the more we are trying to be globalized, the more we are going for internationalization. Definitely we will have to use the protocols that are followed at international level. These all factors have actually changed or reshaped or restructured the role of a teacher in present context. And since the context is changing, therefore we need to, develop ourselves in those areas. The early we realize it and take our stand to develop ourselves, the better we will be in terms of career, in terms of achievements, in terms of happiness also. I hope I answered this.
Yes. Practically, very relevant lecture you have given, and you have touched upon many aspects which we are all feeling, we are all facing actually in our work life. Thank you very much, ma'am, and thanks for accepting our invitation and to be part of this academic event for the benefit of younger faculty. Thank you very much, and we will be in contact in future. Thank you. Namaste, ma'am. Now, Professor A.P. Pati, Ambika Prasad Pati, he is there. Thanks for joining us, sir. How are you? Namaste.
Namaskar.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And so, Professor Ambika Prasad Pati is Dean of the School of Economics Management